Good morning, evening, afternoon. Today we are playing Echoes, a Lucid9 Fangame. Previously, after hearing warnings from the neural network ghost of Christmas past, I guess is what I made it sound like. Um, we woke up and then Kosuke is like, something is going on, but you gotta keep your cool. And you're a disappointment. And then Rui's like, well, you're a disappointment, but sure, I'll keep my cool. And now we get to meet Yama, a robo Yama, and apparently he's forgotten Rui. And that's where we left off. Alright, let's continue. I attempt to look directly at Yama's face, but the fear in his pale yellow eyes brings on a momentary vision of his state. This morning, paralyzed, desperate, and with tubes hanging from his raw, skinless neck, like starving lampreys feasting on a wounded animal. Sinking their teeth in, twisting their fibrous jaws to cut even deeper. It vanishes in the blink of an eye, but even after it disappears, I can feel an oppressive shivering sensation of heat running down my skin, under which follicles stand. Follicles stand on end, and veins begin to thrum with anxious pressure. My voice nearly breaks as my throat tightens and my eyes begin to water, desperate to close off the gates to 3 years of grief. I managed to overcome them. I managed to overcome the reflex, but only just. I wanted to make sure you're okay. Oh. Here we go. I feel like I'm gonna have to do this a lot. Okay, here we go. Leave. Leave while you can, is that what it's gonna say? Leave while you still. Leave while you still can. Leave while you still can. Wait, you're... Yama takes a step forward and stares down at me for several uninterrupted seconds. Still struggling to look directly at him, I keep my eyes closed and listen for any signs of movement. When I open them to the sound of hydraulics, I see a hand hovering over my shoulder. Hey. I shakily reach over and grab Yama's hand with my own, gently pushing it down until it touches my skin. You don't have to be shy. It's me, Yama. You do remember me, right? I open my eyes, forcing myself to look directly at him. Wait, you're... My voice wavers as Yama withdraws his hand and hastily steps back. The shock on his face returned in full force. What little sense of serenity existed in the air is obliterated in an instant. No, that's not possible. That doesn't make any sense. I saw you die. I planned for every possible outcome. I chose differently each time. I used all the data I had, but I couldn't. Yama takes a deep, inaudible breath. Look, I don't know who you are, and I'd like to believe who you're telling me, and believe what you're telling me, but I can't. I'm sorry, but you need to get out of here. This is my problem. I won't have you dragged into it. Unless you actually want to get dragged into it. I nod. I've dragged myself into worse. Yama lets out an uncomfortable, forced chuckle. But one that somehow seems entirely genuine. Somehow, I don't doubt that for a minute. While this certainly isn't the ideal situation, it's far from the unworkable. At the moment, I've got a few methods in my mind to handle it, but none of them seem like they're going to do the trick by themselves. And since triggering memories deliberately isn't really one of my strong suits, my best course of action is to try all of them. The question is, which one should I start with? I get an option? Doesn't matter? Huh. So, I do choose all of them. But, doesn't matter which order I do it in. My options are ask Yama about the experience, his experience during the treatment. Attempt to explain to Yama where and when he is. Remind Yama of your history together. I feel like he's not going to remember unless like we do the pin. Even then he might be like, well, anyone could have given you that sort of thing. He doesn't really seem to trust us, and rightfully so. Let's ask him how his thing went. Something caused him to think this way, and I'd like to know what it is. Unfortunately, if I keep lecturing him directly on how it was artificial in nature, he's going to be far less likely to listen. I know that from experience. My best option is to ask him about what's been happening, almost as if it came from something real. As far as he's concerned, it likely did. Could you tell me what's been happening to you what has been happening to these students? I'll tell you the same thing that I told everyone else. Kids from my school keep vanishing at night, and most are never found. The ones who did turn up had to be picked up with tongs and crammed into evidence bags. I know who's responsible, but the faculty is acting just like the police did. They're brushing the issue aside and looking the other way in favor of keeping the matter unknown. I've seen this happen again and again. I know the evidence by heart, but they ignore me every time I bring it to them. Do you know what it's like to try and argue against that kind of enforced ignorance? Not personally, but I have a good idea of what might happen if you do. And what's that? You'd be considered delusional. Even if everything you said was correct, even if there was evidence that could be put together to prove it, it would all be dismissed out of hand. You give someone who's desperate to write the truth a pencil and no paper. They'll cover the walls with it. And then you can go tell everyone how wrong that truth is just because there's no paper under it. You sure you've never been in those shoes? You seem to know a lot for someone who claims they haven't. A good friend of mine went through something similar. They had proof that something terrible was happening, but they knew that the people in power wouldn't accept it. If I'd known earlier and had time to think things through, I could have done something to help, but I didn't. Maybe not, but you figured it out. Most people never do. If you don't mind, could you tell me what year it is? As far as I know, it's still 2038. And the current month? I'm not sure. It was April the last time I checked, but before that, I think it was July. I know how that sounds, but the same things seem to keep happening to me over and over again, and I don't know why. I lived 3 months of my life, and then I lived it again and again in some sort of cycle. And now I'm here, and I don't know where here is. Sometimes I would get these visions, this voice speaks to me and asks me to take a tray full of pills, and suddenly I'm a different person, and I don't know why. Every time it ends the same way. I return to those 3 months. She always dies. I always live. I always go back to where I started, like someone saving and reloading my life. Sorry, Yama. I gotta get all the endings. All the CGs. My bad. I understand how you might not want to believe me, but I've seen it happen this way. I believe you. That's unexpected. Thank you. You're welcome. I've seen less believable things happen here. There's no reason that I shouldn't treat what you've seen any differently. What if I'm wrong? Then I'll be wrong too. And we'll both have a chance to learn what's right. Do you remember anything happening between these cycles? I saw someone wearing a lab coat a few hours ago. I was in this room and they mentioned that someone wanted to visit me. Then something about running tests. No, that's not right. They said the tests were already run, or that the tests were already done? I can't remember exactly what they told me, but I feel like I've seen them before. Was it a man with glasses and long gray hair? How did you... were there any words that time? Okay, I didn't see any. I feel the muscles in my chest tighten in disgust. We're placed in short order by a toxic cocktail of anguish and horror that takes over my entire body. Nausea drowns out my thoughts. My stomach churns with revulsion, and I nearly double over. There's no doubt in my mind. If Inceps is involved and Yama is being honest about what he's seen, someone has been forcing him to relive bad memories over and over again. Those times were devastating when he experienced them once, but constantly? I only know one person who would even be mad enough to put someone through that kind of ordeal. Nothing here happens without his permission, and if it's something that interests him, he'll almost certainly take an active role. What kind of data does Kosuke think he can produce by forcing Yama to suffer like this? I don't know, how to treat PTSD in a more effective way or something like that, you know, for the greater good. Some sort of mad scientist bullshit that he thinks is good. Almost knocked over everything because I'm drinking out of a 2-liter again. But that seems like a very him thing to do, you know? Those times devastated him when he went through them once, but to recreate the trauma of those times so callously, so incessantly. Sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. No worries. Sorry if I startled you. The cycles, though, I don't think they're an accident. I couldn't tell you what purpose it serves, but whatever it is, it's not right. They did things to you that never should have been done to anyone. You shouldn't have had to... My voice falters. One more. And I cut myself off. mid-sentence in order to take a breath. They had no right to do this to you. None of them did. They stood by and let you suffer. I don't know why, but I'm going to find out. And I won't let this continue. Yama responds with a pained smile. I expect to heal that pain in the undertones of what he says next. I expect to hear that pain in the undertones of what he says next. But instead, his voice is tranquil and filled with understanding. Over time, I've learned that certain things stick with us in life, and there's nothing we can do about it. Anyone who lives long enough will have memories of regret, suffering, and death. And these are the memories time and kindness won't wash away. No matter who you are, you're going to suffer. The people you care about are going to be gone someday. But agonizing over what you could have done isn't going to bring them back. It's not something you can keep yourself from experiencing. So, you shouldn't worry about it. You shouldn't worry about me for seeing more of it than you have. Just make sure that after it happens, you're there to try to make things right. Well, Yama. Okay. Attempt to explain to Yama where and when he is. Remind Yama of your history together. I'm saving that for last. Well, this seems out of place. Welcome back, Yama. A lot has happened since we last spoke. I feel like should have gone first. Out here, at least, none of us can say what you've seen except for you. What do you mean? Well, your body was injured pretty badly. We brought you here to help heal those injuries. I don't suppose you could tell me where here is. This might sound completely insane to hear, but right now you're in one of the Way Forward Corporation secret facilities underneath District 2. I know it's not necessarily on the map, but we needed some technology that couldn't really be found anywhere else. One of the higher ups expressed personal interest in helping you recover. So he contacted me, and I made a deal to work with him. I work as an operative for the Way Forward's Special Services Division, and this is my cell's headquarters. From what I know, we specialize in advanced medical technology with a heavy emphasis on paramilitary operations as opposed to the typical espionage, surveillance, counterintelligence, and covert law enforcement the division is reportedly known for. I'm not sure how much I'm clear to tell you about, but I can honestly say you're not missing much besides general skullduggery and live fire exercise. I won't lie. I did some things I'm not proud of. But if I wasn't around, the people in charge probably would have made them happen anyway. If I wasn't involved, I doubt I'd ever be standing here talking to you. I know you might not remember me, but pressure builds in my throat, forcing me to look away. I try to squeeze out the already formed sentences sitting on the tip of my tongue, but I can't. The trembling in my lungs makes every breath sound as if I'm shivering, and it seems that any syllable I possibly could eke out would give the impression that it was being strangled with a belt. It's only a matter of time before I break down completely, and for the second time today. Seemingly seeing you again, it's worth it. Take a look at your arms, Yama. I know they aren't what they used to be, but we didn't want you to go without them. Do they work? Yama, your arms are crossed right now. I assume they work. Of course they do. Why would we waste our time on ones that didn't? We had to install more prosthetics like those, but if it makes you feel any better, they did a few procedures on me too. See? I do, but should you really be exposing yourself like this? Sorry. Special circumstances. Circumstances that couldn't have happened overnight. That's the thing, Yama. They didn't. I don't know how much time passed for you in there. But for the rest of us, it's been 3 years. It's 2041 now. April 25th, 2041 to be exact. I doubt it's a coincidence that I look like someone you once knew. Someone who, as you might remember, didn't make it. The scientists here have been working on a new technology. It's called INSEPS, stands for Intracranial Neural Enneagram Programming System. It messes with your head a lot. For some reason, they wanted you to think I was dead. And for a while, I may as well have been. So she never died. So that whole thing was just in Yama's head. Okay. I promised you I'll get to the bottom of this. I'll find out why they did it. But your arms, my implants, the fact that I'm a dead ringer for someone you know, even the fact that nobody believes you. Well, we'll see how this goes, and we'll also get to see how he reacts to us telling him who we are in the next episode.